Today we are diving into the what if Zoro was visited by Mihawk as a little kid. We all know how Shanks visited Luffy as a little kid and ended up giving him the Nika fruit unintentionally. In this what if, we're going to be applying a certain theory about Shanks to make it so that this story makes more sense. Trust me, let me cook. How the theory goes is that Shanks actually visited Fuchsia Village to give this fruit to Roger's son being Ace. And if that theory is true, we're really not changing much other than the fact that Luffy is not going to accidentally eat a devil fruit. Of course, Luffy will still have aspirations to be the Pirate King, and he will still have his interaction with Shanks and the Mountain Bandits and being saved. It's just that he doesn't have a devil fruit. Now that we've laid some groundwork, we can move on to Mihawk visiting Zoro as a little kid. This was obviously a what if series on my shorts, but now we're making it a long form series, and I've made some tweaks to it to make the story a little bit better. When Mihawk visits Zoro, he recognizes his ambition to be the world's strongest swordsman and respects it. And Mihawk thinks to himself, maybe he can make a rival out of Zoro eventually. And in order to motivate Zoro, he ends up giving his butter knife chain to him and tells him not to wear it until he's become a great swordsman. Obviously different from Shanks, as Shanks said to Luffy to wear it and not give it back until he's become a great pirate. And some of you guys who saw this on my shorts, you're probably wondering, where is the devil fruit? Well, I thought about it and I'm like, Mihawk is not the type of guy to give Zoro a devil fruit just off the bat. And I'm not completely opposed to Zoro gaining a devil fruit, I just don't think he needs it yet. Zoro, with all the motivation in the world, does not want to disappoint his newfound rival in Mihawk. Well, at least Zoro sees him as a rival. Mihawk sees him as a little kid with potential to be a rival, but probably just another failure. Now we time skip to where Luffy heads out to sea, helps Kobe destroy the Alvida pirates, and heads over to the naval base island. Instead of hearing about how Zoro was such a nice guy and how he's being held captive, they end up hearing that he actually destroyed all of the Marines at this Navy base, including Axe-Hand Morgan. You see, the Zoro in this timeline is a little bit more cold-blooded and more cocky. This is due to the fact that the world's strongest swordsman deemed him his rival. In his head, at least. Especially giving a little kid that much confidence in them is very dangerous. I mean, Zoro is already wearing the butter knife chain as if he's a great swordsman. Luffy is interested in Zoro and wants him to join his crew because he sounds like a powerful fighter that may not be a good guy, but he has to see for himself. Luffy and Kobe do end up finding Zoro in a bar eating and drinking, and when Luffy confronts him about joining the crew, he laughs and mocks Luffy. He says there's no way he'd ever join a pirate crew, especially when the captain is as weak as Luffy is. Luffy says to put this to the test, and they go outside to have their fight. Now, another thing I've decided to add to the story, calm down, it's not major. I've given Luffy basic armament hockey. I'm talking smoker level armament hockey. It's not that great. But I mean, without his devil fruit, pre-time skip, he's literally just a man out there throwing punches, and he's not even good at martial arts. He needs at least hockey. Once Luffy and Zoro begin their fight, Zoro notices that Luffy is using this thing called hockey, and he's only heard of it from Mihawk. Zoro realizes he's outmatched when Luffy blocks all three of his swords with an armament arm. He then receives a right hook to the face, which doesn't knock him out, but it knocks him down. Zoro says that he will not be a subordinate under Luffy, and he's only traveling with him just to find Mihawk and challenge him for the title of world's strongest swordsman. Luffy says that's fine with him because the king of the pirates needs the world's strongest swordsman on his crew. So Luffy and Zoro decide to sail off together, while Kobe ends up obviously joining the Marines. Luffy and Zoro will fight the buggy pirates and destroy them, acquiring Nami as a navigator in the process. With Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, they head to Syrup Village, defeat the Kuro pirates with basically no issue, and when it comes to Usopp joining the crew, Zoro says that this man is way too weak, but Luffy insists to Zoro that Usopp's sniping skills will come in handy. You just need to believe in him. Then go to the Baratie, and pretty much the same happening, although Zoro is very emphatic about not having Sanji join the crew. Luffy says that he wants a cook to join. He wants his food. Obviously, Luffy would have defeated the Don Creek pirates with basic armament hockey alone, but Mihawk, on the other hand, has pulled up, and Zoro is ready for his fight. Mihawk clearly sees that Zoro is wearing the butter knife chain, which means that Zoro should be ready to fight Mihawk. 2 seconds into the fight, he is underwhelmed, so disappointed, he actually rips the chain off of Zoro and uses the butter knife to defeat him. He tells Zoro he's a disappointment for not even being able to use hockey. This completely shatters Zoro's confidence, and now he's wondering to himself if he'll ever be a great swordsman. Mihawk on his coffin boat says to Zoro that even the weakling on your crew would defeat you in a one-on-one. Obviously referring to Luffy. Luffy says that his goal is to become the Pirate King, and Mihawk says that his goal is even loftier than Zoro's. Zoro is in shock. He thought he was on par with the world's strongest swordsman, and he just got a reality check. No drippy butter knife chain anymore, he's bare-necked. And after that showing against Mihawk, Zoro has no say. Sanji is gonna join the crew. Now we're off to Arlong Park, where that goes pretty similarly to the main story, apart from the fact that Zoro is not as heavily injured, although he still will not defeat Arlong because he does have some minor injuries. Remember, in this battle, Mihawk put away his big black sword Yoru and instead fought with the butter knife. Now the last stop before the Grand Line, we are off to Logtown. Logtown goes slightly differently than it did in the main story, as Luffy does have haki here. Why do I mention this? Well, this means that Luffy can fight Smokey. And although everything on the execution platform practically goes the same, with Buggy almost actually executing Luffy and Lightning saving him, his fight with Smokey is actually slightly different because he can keep up with Smokey and actually touch him. Smokey, being a Logia, is not used to being hit in the face, so when Luffy lands a punch on him, he is surprised. So surprised that he in fact loses this battle to Luffy. Dragon, watching off in the distance, is just as shocked as Smokey, as he was expecting to have to save Luffy. By the way, Zoro does still end up purchasing the Kitetsu because he senses something within the sword and that it's cursed. Now our Straw Hats can finally make their way to the Grand Line, all with the same goals except for Zoro, as he's more so seeking revenge than he is to become the world's strongest swordsman. Zoro still believes that he's the captain of this crew, even though it's completely obvious that Luffy is. I mean, their name is literally called the Straw Hats. Everything at Reverse Mountain will go the same. It's when we reach Whiskey Peaks that things slightly change. Zoro immediately recognizes Baroque Works' emblem, as he was offered a job by them. With the Straw Hats only just landing ashore Whiskey Peaks, Zoro defeats 200 bounty hunters by himself. Obviously, that doesn't seem like that much of an increase, but that's double what he did in the original story. Luffy obviously is furious, as well as the rest of the crew, as they were just offered free food and drinks and everything. But once Zoro tells them what Baroque Works really is, they all calm down, except for Luffy because he still wanted his meat. With the Baroque Work members being defeated like this, Crocodile never gets the information that the Straw Hats are even a threat. And as for Vivi, she surrenders to Zoro and begs the Straw Hats for help, as she's not a real Baroque Works agent. After Vivi tells the Straw Hats about her situation, Zoro pretty much says, "That's not our problem," while Luffy and the rest, especially Sanji being a simp, offer to help Vivi. Yeah, if you haven't noticed, Zoro is kind of a cocky, arrogant jerk. All because Mihawk gave him his drippy butter knife chain as a little kid. And since all of the Straw Hats besides Zoro agreed on this, Zoro is seriously considering leaving the crew, as he says that he doesn't need them. But once there's mention of the warlord Crocodile being the Baroque Works leader, Zoro is all in because he wants to fight. And with that, that will conclude part 1 of What If Zoro Was Visited by Mihawk as a Little Kid. If you guys enjoyed part 1, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. There is a 5K minimum likes goal to make this series continue, because I need to know whether or not this What If is worth continuing. And so we'll see you on the next one. Peace.